Welcome to day 7 of our crochet tutorials for absolute beginners, where I'm going to show you how to weave in your yarn tails. Let's grab our finished work and head to the crafting table. All right, so for today's tutorial, you're going to need your finished work, and this is just a little swatch that I did of a couple of about 6 rows of double crochet stitches. So you're going to need your finished work. You're going to need a pair of scissors. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a nice sharp pair of scissors. Also, along with your scissors, you are going to need some darning needles. These darning needles came with some yarn that I ordered, as well as some stitch markers. But darning needles are pretty much just large-eyed sewing needles. So any kind of sewing needle with a large eye like this that's large enough for you to put the yarn into will work just fine for this project. You can get them pretty much anywhere. You can get them in Michael's, you can get them at Walmart, you can buy them in bulk in Amazon. So you can find them pretty much anywhere. They also come in a lot of different varieties. You can get them in plastic, you can get them in metal. And they come in a lot of different shapes and sizes as well. So just find the one that works for you. I tend to like these darning needles the best, which just look like regular large-eyed needles. But all right, let's get into how to get rid of these yarn tails. Obviously, this is the yarn tail that you left when you first started your project. And then these are a couple of other yarn tails. Now, I wouldn't normally have this many yarn tails left in my work, but because I wanted to show you guys how to weave in these tails, I left a couple of extra ones when I was doing the changes, the color changes. So that's why you see, all these extra little yarn tails here. So step 1, you're going to want to cut about 2. So like, see this yarn tail right here? This one is really long. We don't need that much. So you want to leave about 2 to 3 inches for your yarn tails, so we can get rid of that excess yarn. And so step 1 is to cut 2 to 3 inches of your yarn tail. Step 2, after we've cut our yarn, is we are going to thread our yarn through the needle, through the eye of our needle. So you have your eye of your needle, and we're going to thread our yarn through there. So we've got our needle thread. Step 3, we're going to insert our needle into our work and run it through a tunnel for about 6 stitches. Like this project has multiple colors, so I want to make sure that I'm going to run this needle through the pink section. I don't want to run it through the white section, because then it'll show up in the white part of the work. So if you have multiple colors, you want to make sure that you are threading through the right part. You can also flip your work over. So this is the right side of the fabric. Wherever your tail is, your starting tail. So if you're right-handed, the starting tail is usually on the right side. This is the right side of the work. And when you flip it over, that becomes the wrong side of the work, or the back. So we are going to weave in this yarn, and I got to get these other tails out the way. So now we're going to weave in our yarn. So what you want to do is, you see down here, this little section where these bars are down here, this is where we want to insert our yarn in, is through these bars. And like I said, you want to go through 6 stitches. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can do fewer or more. It's completely up to you. But you want to insert your needle underneath those bars. So you're going to go in, that's stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've got our needle inserted under these 6 stitches. And next, we're just going to run our needle through those 6 stitches. And now we're going to do the same thing for step 4. So we're going to turn our work, turn it upside down. You don't have to turn it upside down, but I like to. And then we're not going to go directly back through, because remember, that would just pull it back out the other side. So we're going to, you see how this stitch kind of splits in two? You can either go in here, or you can skip and go to the 5th stitch and run it through. Either one will work. So I'm going to insert my needle here, and I'm going to run it back through the tunnel through these stitches that I went through the first time and come back through. And so that's our second pass. And so you want to do this at least 3 times. So I'm going to rotate it around because it's just easier for me to see, especially with the camera sitting in front of me. And so this time I'm going to put my needle in. I'm going to skip this stitch here and I'm going to put it in into the second one, and I'm just going to go back through the tunnel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that should be stitch number 5, and we're just going to pull it through. And one thing you don't want to do when you're doing this is to pull too tightly when you're weaving in your tails, because it'll misshapen your work like with here. Now, when you get to this last stitch, you can do that because you want the stitch to be hidden. So you could pull it tightly and then use your scissors in step 5, and well, you can use your scissors and just snip through that stitch. Make sure you don't accidentally cut your stitches when you're doing it. And then you can pull it and that little piece will disappear. And so now you can't even see where I weave that tail in. So now it's in there. It's not going to come back out. So remember, when you're weaving in your tails, you want to do at least 3, count them up, 1, 2, 3. You want to do 3 passes through your work wherever you're weaving it in to make sure it's secure. Obviously, you can do more, but you would probably need a little longer tail for that. You could do more than 3 passes going in the opposite direction. So just like we did 1 pass forward, 1 pass backwards, and then 1 pass forward. So as long as you are weaving the tail in opposite directions, they should not come out. Remember to pull tightly at the end and to not cut your work when you are pulling that last pass through tightly to snip your work. All right, so after you weave in all of your yarn tails, you have a beautiful finished piece of work that you can be proud of. So this is what our work looks like after we've sewn in all of our yarn tails. I hope you enjoyed learning how to weave in your yarn tails today. This is our last video in our crochet tutorial series for absolute beginners. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Remember to keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.